everybody, welcome back to Quali-Tea Time with special guest Sparks Flame.
Hello.
Who is currently staying with Fuzz and I for a little bit. So the first thing in the news, of course, is that The Return has finally concluded. Today, in fact, marks the release of the behind the scenes, which is longer than every episode of The Return thus far combined.
We did have a lot of behind the scenes antics though. So.
Yeah, maybe next year I'll have like longer episodes, but it depends on how quickly it kills me. But that was a lot of fun to do. Hope people enjoyed that. And here's to next year, I guess. That's the good news. The bad news is the past week, more or less. Because Friday onwards has not been magnificent. So the first thing is, who remembers me saying in, I think, What's Up 2, I installed this graphics card about a month ago. And, yeah, that has a rich bouquet of blue smoke now. Literally, the night of the EU referendum, and that is our next topic of conversation, this combusted. Now, I have, just moments ago, ordered a new graphics card, the GTX 980, which will hopefully be here by Thursday night, but we'll see. So, haven't had a graphics card for about the past week, great. And then we get to the referendum itself. So, for those of you who have somehow missed this news, the UK had a referendum, which is a big public vote, on whether or not we should leave the European Union, which we've been in since 1973, which is, for reference, almost 30 years, like the better part of at least 20, 30 years before I was born, or before Sparks was born, or Fuzz was born. So you can imagine there's a fair chunk of the voting population that lived entirely in the EU. And, certain statements were made, certain campaigns lied a lot, and certain people made protest votes not fully understanding how democracy apparently works. And we voted by a majority that consists of 1.25 million out of the 47 million voting populace of this country, and the 65 million that live here, to leave the EU.
I think it was something like
1.8%?
Yeah, it was 1.8% in of the people that actually voted versus that wanted to leave versus remain.
Yeah. So, what does this mean? Well, within a matter of hours of that vote, the pound dropped to the lowest point it's been in over 30 years. So longer than we've been in the EU. Or at least longer than it was before I was born. Let's see. Scotland wants to have another referendum on whether it should leave the UK.
Free Scotland.
Yeah. Ireland has had discussion about whether it should reunify. Wales, who voted to leave the EU, have also had issues on whether they should secede.
I mean, on the basis, I think it's on principle, if Ireland and Scotland are doing it, they want to get in on the leaving England action too.
Yeah, and then also very recently, Australia have announced that they're going to try and leave the Commonwealth. So, literally, the nation that we built on throwing criminals at it wants to leave us now. That's how dire the situation is. Cameron, our Prime Minister, has resigned. His opposition, Jeremy Corbyn, has had a vote of no confidence and has a lot of people saying he should leave. Personally, I think he's better off staying. I think we're going to need him now, honestly. He's leader of Labour.
I don't think he can actually manage to do anything if half his party hate him. At this point,
most of the country hate the people that voted leave.
Yeah.
And let me see. Oh yes, we apparently have 2 years to conclude leaving the EU, but various portions, including Germany, Italy, and Spain, say they won't actually do trade deals with us until we leave.
Well, we've got the 2 years to leave the EU once the Article 50 clause has been triggered.
Yes, which is handing in our resignation, more or less.
We haven't actually handed in the resignation yet, though, so technically we are still part of Europe.
The referendum is a recommendation from the public, which apparently a lot of people don't seem to get.
No.
And it basically is a strong suggestion to Parliament on what they should do. So by 1.8%, that recommendation is that we should leave. Now, a lot of people rightly believe that this is actually more a statement of confusion than certainty. So there is now a petition going around that has exceeded 4 million people twice, saying that we should only consider the referendum to be successful if it's a 60% majority rather than 51.8%.
There were several members of the Leave campaign beforehand, before it became clear that Leave was going to win, that were saying, if Remain wins by a narrow margin, we should have a revote, basically, and they've all been very suspiciously quiet.
Yes, Nigel Farage has been quite quiet. In fact, the petition for this whole referendum reshuffle thing was started by a Leave campaigner, and it was opened a month before the referendum happened, and he is now very, very hypocritically salty that it's being taken up by Remain. But what does this mean currently, and potentially in the long run if that gets upheld? Because Cameron previously said he would follow what the referendum says, but he's not in power anymore, so screw that noise. Well, the pound is sunk, so our economy kind of is tanking a fair bit. It's tanking worse than the 2008 recession did, by a mile. Which means we're going to be seeing prices go up, we're going to see markets dropping, we're losing a lot of funding from the EU if we leave.
Especially for academics and stuff, which is not great.
Yes, in fact, my university, which is right here in the same city, gets the bulk of its funding from the EU. And it already bought a giant building plastered with gold, so... Yeah, Teesside has terrible, economic sense, but still. So what does it mean for me? Because I know there's at least one person asking what this means for my content. It means nothing with regards to my content, because I can still make videos as long as I have power and internet, and I will still be making money that's based dominantly in the dollar, so that's something. It does mean, however, that my rent might go up. It means that my bills are going to be higher. It means that food is going to be more expensive.
On the bright side, they also reckon the housing market might plummet, so your rent might go down.
Or I might get kicked out if my landlord can't afford anything.
Also an option.
So, yeah, also I live in the north of England, which for some ungodly reason voted to leave almost unanimously. Newcastle voted to stay, that was about it, pretty much. And the north of England, for those of you who don't know this, because this is some Games of Thrones kind of stuff here, the north is the industrial sector. We've always been the people who mined stuff, or who got the coal, shipped it south, built the steel, made the ships, that kind of thing.
I like how you point to me when you say south.
I was just gesticulating, but sure. Yeah. British industry fell a lot in around the 1970s onwards-ish, because we had access to the free market, so we just went through there and, grabbed a bunch of stuff. If we don't have the industry, then that means we had to be taking on pieces from the EU to be able to support people in the north. We no longer have the EU, so it's a bit like kicking the crutches out from underneath us. I don't know why we voted to leave, but apparently we're idiots, and this is basically the EV referendum over again.
Yeah.
One big, massive misinformation campaign has led us to a terrible decision. So, I'll be alive, but if it starts to look like Mad Max around here with an English accent, then you know why. This is basically one of the worst things that could have happened in my lifetime, and if I'm lucky, it won't take the rest of my lifetime to fix it. Eek.
Yes.
Stay tuned.
Suboptimal.
So, from that particularly bright sunny news, onto the schedule. So, Thursday we hopefully have Midnight Goo. If I have my new graphics card, that should be fine. If not, I don't know, maybe you and I can figure something out to do Thursday night if that's the case.
Could have several hours of Endabab dancing on camera.
Yeah, people seem to enjoy that. So that'll be over at twitch.tv/lyinginbedbond from 11 PM BST. On Friday, we have an episode of Edgington, which I don't know what happens in it because I'm filming it today, because the return ruined my work schedule. On Saturday, we have an episode of Dungeon Maker, where we'll be doing a little bit more work now that I have a fair bit more redstone. And we also have Path of Steel, Session 2. So, Dungeons & Dragon Hats has started officially its new campaign. Already, we had someone down like a third of their health against the first enemy in the first session. So...
Going well.
And Session 2 starts as we begin a week-long trek to the next village over, which are stated to be rivals of the starting village and is full of orcs.
Gonna go even better.
So that is from 9 PM BST over at twitch.tv/thedragonhat. Then on Sunday we have, hopefully, an episode of XCOM 2 that isn't shot at 9 frames per second the entire way through and is of course full length. But Diaz is back and we have plated armor now, so yay! Good for that noise. And then on Tuesday we have an episode of Undermine, where I will be doing a bit of work down in the ravine town to see that some of my more recent residents get some nicer homes. And we also have Yoked Wolves Live number 53, because 52 was so successful. My mum popped in on like Yoked Wolves Live 52, that's how weird it was.
I mean, people seem to enjoy it, so it depends how you measure success.
My
I
mum
guess.
definitely enjoyed her brief moment of internet stardom. But last time we did a bunch of coding to get ritual sites going, so hopefully I'll have some time to work on that in the intervening days, we'll see, and we can get some more summoning going, like summoning the Uber Vigilant, for example, which is the main end game kind of thing of these ritual codes. And then on Wednesday, we have another episode of Edgington, where things will continue happening, probably. So, on to the questions. These questions are, of course, as always, drawn from the comments section of the preceding video, and if you have any questions for me to answer, then drop them down there. I've seen questions getting into other video comment sections for some reason. I don't know why. I had a question about the EU in my XCOM videos, which
People
I guess
being
XCOM is
lost.
international, but weird. Anyways, our only question of the day comes from Kyle Dunn, which is, do you make all your Minecraft skins, or do you get an artist to do them? Firstly, I'm surprised that doing Minecraft skins does not qualify me as an artist in any fashion. I mean, that's a form of art, is it not?
Yeah. I think
That's an
could-
artistic, creative endeavor. But the answer is I make all of my Minecraft skins. The Witch in the Woods skin, the clothing and like the style of that was heavily inspired by people doing different fan arts of the Witch from Minecraft the Hard Way. And I guess it's one of my most like popular skins to date, but there's probably other factors there.
Yeah.
Which is your favourite, isn't it?
I mean, the return has put something of a.
It's relit a spark.
Yeah. I mean, previously I would have been like, yeah, absolutely Witch. I am quite fond of Summoner and Bloodline as well. The soft and blood.
The soft and the continually bleeding, but for practical purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do
I
put
think Witch-
put a lot of thought into how
Witch
they look.
still wins, I think.
Yeah, which seems like it'll be a fan favourite for a while. But yeah, I do put a lot of thought into how the different lines look. So, like, even way before I was doing the whole lying verse thing with, say, Atlantis lying has, like, an earbud kind of mic, because scuba divers wear that a lot.
Yeah.
And he was also wearing a, like, swimsuit version of his usual outfit. So, I put thought into it, but let me see, things I thought about the recent characters with that regards. Bloodline, I tried very hard to invert a lot of like the standard tropes of blood magic with Bloodline. Tragically, yes. So, like, name like the standard tropes of blood magic.
Vaguely possessed, kind of going steadily spiraling downwards morality, covered in blood, very messy, living in like
Usually has caves and bones.
dark,
and
yeah, living in
Yeah.
a dark hole in the ground.
Meanwhile, bloodlying is like elites of like an Indian-based society, relatively like close to modern. I would say like 1800s-ish,
A
maybe.
lot cleaner than most blood mages.
Yes, he is incredibly clean by comparison. He's like always dressed in finery. His clothing has a red accent, but he actually like is usually wearing blues and purples rather than reds and such, reds and blacks. And he's not evil. I wouldn't necessarily say that he's good. He's more of a neutral. Like I would describe like bloodlying as like being lawful neutral. That seems like the best way I could describe it, probably.
He struck me as chill, I think, mostly.
He's,
Just kind of like
for the bulk of the return, he is irritated
yeah.
because he's been dragged out of his own universe to fight an army that doesn't actually have blood. So
Understandable.
it's like taking a machine gunner out of World War II to fight an army that doesn't actually feel bullets.
Also ended up in the same room as both Witch and Knight, which is enough to ruin anybody's day, I think.
Yes,
really.
especially since Witch is very, very curious about blood lying. Even more curious if you watch the behind the scenes. Yeah, and then we had like Cyborg lying, who gets a lot of comparisons to Genos from One Punch Man, despite the fact that they're very different characters and also have very distinct appearances.
I think Blood got compared to Zenyatta the other day as well, didn't he?
Yes, there is at least one art of Bloodline that looks like Zenyatta, and there's now actually an entire Tumblr post of bad photoshops of lying faces over the Overwatch characters.
We
Which is...
certainly have an interesting fandom.
Yes, Night Lion got put onto Reinhardt.
Oh dear. Was there a Soldier 76 line?
Yes, it was lying she side during a blood moon.
Nice.
So it was, the whole thing was tinted red.
Nice.
But yes, long story short, I make all the Minecraft skins. Just they have various different influences in them, I guess. And they've only very recently required that I have different models as well. But. So that is it for this Quali-Tea time. Thank you very much for dropping by. And as always, catch you all next time.